Question 1. The project manager is initiating the process of acquiring team resources for a project that requires niche expertise. The most important document the project manager must use to define the required skills and competencies for these roles is the A. Project Charter, B. Resource Management Plan, C. WBS Dictionary, D. Stakeholder Register. Answer B. Resource Management Plan. The Resource Management Plan is the subsidiary plan that formally documents how resources will be acquired, managed, and released. It contains critical information like the team structure, roles and responsibilities, and most importantly, the specific roles and skill requirements needed for the project team. Question 2. In a strong matrix organization, a project manager is attempting to acquire a full-time resource from a functional department. Which tool should the project manager use as the basis for negotiating the resource's time commitment with the functional manager? A. The Project Charter, defining overall authority. B. The Resource Management Plan, defining the need. C. The latest Earned Value Management (EVM) report. D. The team's ground rules. Answer B. The Resource Management Plan, defining the need. The Resource Management Plan formally documents the planned resource acquisition and allocation strategy, including the specific commitment level required for each resource. This plan serves as the basis for negotiation with functional managers, proving that the requested resource time is justified and necessary for project execution. Question 3. A project manager is building a team for a high-uncertainty project using an adaptive approach. What key characteristics should the project manager prioritize during resource acquisition? A. Deep specialization I-shaped skills to handle complexity. B. Low communication requirements to minimize overhead. C. Cross-functional capability T-shaped skills and self-organization experience. D. Willingness to accept a fixed-price contract. Answer C. Cross-functional capability T-shaped skills and self-organization experience. Adaptive projects require teams that are flexible and capable of managing complexity internally. Cross-functional team members, T-shaped, can assist across various tasks, reducing bottlenecks, while self-organization skills are necessary for the team to manage its flow without constant direction. Question 4. During the process of acquiring the team, the project manager finds that the required niche expertise is not available internally. The project manager must now create an agreement to obtain this resource externally. This process is documented as part of which knowledge area? A. Scope management. B. Risk management. C. Procurement management. D. Communications management. Answer C. Procurement management. When resources, including personnel or specific services, cannot be acquired internally, the project manager must engage external organizations to obtain them. This action falls directly under the scope of procurement management, which handles the planning, conducting, and closing of external agreements and contracts. Question 5. The project manager has successfully acquired all necessary team members and is now facilitating the creation of team ground rules. These ground rules should address A. The scope baseline and WBS decomposition. B. Procedures for resource leveling and scheduling decisions. C. Behavioral expectations and conflict resolution protocols. D. The total budget allocated for contingency reserve. Answer C. Behavioral expectations and conflict resolution protocols. Team ground rules are the agreed-upon standards for team conduct, serving as guidelines for how members will interact and collaborate. Defining behavioral expectations and establishing protocols for conflict resolution are essential for moving the team from the forming/storming stage to norming. Question 6. A project manager is building a virtual team composed of members from different countries and diverse cultural backgrounds. Which primary challenge should the manager proactively address during team formation? A. Ensuring all resources have deep I-shaped expertise. B. Overcoming communication barriers and time zone differences. C. Minimizing the project's overall budget to offset travel costs. D. Enforcing a highly sequential, predictive work process. Answer B. Overcoming communication barriers and time zone differences. Virtual teams face severe challenges in communication due to lack of face-to-face interaction and time separation. The project manager must prioritize establishing clear communication protocols, using high-bandwidth technology, and managing time zone overlaps to ensure effective collaboration. Question 7. The project manager receives a request for a specific, experienced developer whom the sponsor has mandated be assigned to the project due to their niche expertise. This staffing constraint is an example of A. Negotiation. B. Virtual team management. C. Pre-assignment. D. Acquisition. Answer: C. Pre-assignment. Pre-assignment occurs when project team members are identified and assigned to the project in advance, often mandated by the sponsor or due to niche skills or contractual obligations. This limits the project manager's freedom in selecting the best fit resource. Question 8. In a balanced matrix organization, the project manager needs to secure resources who report administratively to a functional manager. What tool is the project manager most likely to use to obtain these resources? A. Forcing power. B. Negotiation. C. Pre-assignment. D. Coercive power. Answer: B. Negotiation. In a balanced matrix, authority is shared, and functional managers hold control over resource assignments. The project manager must typically use negotiation, relying on interpersonal skills, the priority established in the project management plan, and expert or referent power to persuade the functional manager to release the needed resources. Question 9. When building a cross-functional team in an Agile context, the project manager should aim for a team size that maximizes communication and collective ownership. What is the typical optimal size for a Scrum development team? A. 3 to 9 members, excluding the product owner and Scrum Master. B. 10 to 15 members, including all roles. C. 1 to 3 members to maximize focus. D. Less than 5 members, including all roles. Answer: A. 3 to 9 members, excluding the product owner and Scrum Master. The generally accepted and recommended size for a self-organizing development team in Scrum is small enough to maintain effective communication and large enough to complete the sprint goal, typically 3 to 9 people, specifically excluding the product owner and Scrum Master. Question 10. The project manager decides to use co-location for the technical development team during a critical integration phase. The primary objective of co-location is A. To enforce strict working hours and compliance. B. To eliminate the need for formal reporting mechanisms. C. To facilitate spontaneous, high-bandwidth communication and build team relationships. D. To reduce the total project schedule duration via crashing. Answer: C. To facilitate spontaneous, high-bandwidth communication and build team relationships. Co-location involves placing the team in the same physical space. The goal is to maximize informal, spontaneous interaction, high-bandwidth communication, and accelerate the formation of strong working relationships and trust, which is crucial during complex phases like integration. Question 11. Which input is essential for conducting the estimate activity resources process? A. The project charter. B. The activity list and activity attributes. C. The issue log. D. The procurement management plan. Answer: B. The activity list and activity attributes. The estimate activity resources process determines the types and quantities of resources needed for each task. This determination requires knowing what work needs to be done, which is defined by the activity list, the specific actions, and the activity attributes, details like complexity and prerequisites. Question 12. A project manager is building a resource breakdown structure, RBS. What is the primary purpose of the RBS? A. To organize resources hierarchically by category and type. B. To define the organizational reporting structure. C. To detail the cost per hour for each individual resource. D. To determine resource availability dates. Answer: A. To organize resources hierarchically by category and type. The resource breakdown structure, RBS, is a hierarchical chart that categorizes project resources, such as by skill level, e.g. senior engineer, equipment type or material type. This structure is essential for resource planning, tracking, and cost aggregation. Question 13. Which ethical principle is the project manager upholding by ensuring resource assignment decisions are made based purely on competency rather than personal relationships? A. Responsibility. B. Respect. C. Fairness. D. Honesty. Answer C. Fairness. The ethical principle of fairness requires that the project manager's decisions, particularly those related to staffing, procurement, and performance evaluation, are impartial and objective, based solely on merit and competency, without the influence of personal bias or favoritism. Question 14. A project manager uses personnel administration policies and historical data on resource performance from past projects. These factors are considered: A. Enterprise environmental factors (EFs). B. Organizational process assets (OPAs). C. Project baselines. D. Project management plan updates. Answer B. Organizational process assets (OPAs). Organizational process assets (OPAs) include all internal organizational standards, policies, and historical data that can be used to manage the project. Personnel policies, like hiring/firing procedures, and historical project performance records are classic examples of OPAs. Question 15. The project manager finds that the team's ability to self-manage is low, requiring continuous guidance. To build the team's skills, the manager assigns a high-performing developer to coach and mentor two struggling team members. This is an example of which team acquisition and development technique? A. Training. B. Interpersonal skills. C. Pairing and mentoring. D. Coercive power. Answer C. Pairing and mentoring. Pairing and mentoring involve the transfer of knowledge and skill from an experienced resource to a developing resource through direct collaboration and guidance. This is a highly effective, continuous technique for building team competency and confidence. Question 16. In a weak matrix organization, what is the project manager's primary limitation when attempting to acquire highly sought-after resources? A. The project charter limits resource acquisition. B. The project manager has little or no formal authority over functional resources. C. The project budget does not include labor costs. D. The resources are usually pre-assigned. Answer B. The project manager has little or no formal authority over functional resources. In a weak matrix, power resides largely with the functional manager. The project manager acts primarily as a coordinator and has limited to no legitimate authority to demand or allocate resources, making acquisition of high-demand resources extremely difficult. Question 17. The project manager needs to determine if the team requires additional training in advanced technical analysis. Which document should the manager reference to define the current skill levels of the team? A. The WBS Dictionary. B. The Team Directory (OBS). C. The Team Performance Assessment Results. D. The Resource Calendar. Answer C. The Team Performance Assessment Results. Team performance assessments evaluate the competencies and skill levels of individual team members. The results of these assessments are crucial for identifying skill gaps and determining the specific training or acquisition needs to ensure the team is competent for the remaining work. Question 18. What is the key risk associated with using a virtual team for complex integration work? A. Excessive use of legitimate power. B. Difficulty in scheduling tasks due to high float. C. Breakdown of trust and loss of informal high-bandwidth communication. D. Reduced control over the overall project budget. Answer C. Breakdown of trust and loss of informal high-bandwidth communication. Virtual teams struggle to achieve the high level of spontaneous communication and personal interaction necessary to build strong trust and collaboration, especially when integrating complex technical components. This breakdown increases the risk of misunderstanding and conflict. Question 19. A team member is consistently motivated by complex tasks and receiving direct, personal feedback on their performance. According to motivational theories, this team member has a high need for A. Affiliation. B. Power. C. Achievement. D. Security. Answer C. Achievement. According to McClelland's theory of needs, individuals with a high need for achievement are motivated by challenging goals, personal responsibility, and frequent, detailed feedback on their progress. Assigning complex tasks and providing specific feedback directly appeals to this need. Question 20. The project manager identifies a training need and requests external training vendor services. This action falls under which two project management processes? A. Develop project charter and plan risk responses. B. Plan resource management and conduct procurements. C. Estimate activity resources and control procurements. D. Define scope and validate scope. Answer B. Plan resource management and conduct procurements. Identifying the training need is part of plan resource management, specifically, develop team. Requesting and obtaining services from an external vendor requires defining the scope of work and entering into a contract, which is handled by the conduct procurements process. Question 21. What is the significance of the WBS dictionary when building the team? A. It defines the required acceptance criteria for the team's final product. B. It details the specific scope, complexity, and technical requirements of each work package, informing the skill needs. C. It is used to negotiate salary rates with new team members. D. It documents the team's ground rules for conflict resolution. Answer B. It details the specific scope, complexity, and technical requirements of each work package, informing the skill needs. The WBS dictionary provides the detailed breakdown of the work to be done. The complexity and technical requirements described in the dictionary are the authoritative source used by the project manager to determine the necessary skills and competencies for resource acquisition. Question 22. A key outcome of team building activities during the early phases of the project is A. Ensuring all resources are acquired within budget. B. Accelerating the team's transition through the forming and storming stages. C. Formalizing all administrative procedures and ground rules. D. Eliminating all project risks. Answer B. Accelerating the team's transition through the forming and storming stages. Team building activities are designed to foster strong interpersonal relationships, trust, and shared purpose. This cohesion helps the team navigate the initial caution, forming, and conflicts, storming, more quickly, accelerating their transition toward the highly productive norming stage. Question 23. A project manager is conducting performance reviews. Which ethical guideline requires that the team members' performance data must be objective, fair, and documented? A. Responsibility. B. Respect. C. Honesty. D. Fairness. Answer D. Fairness. The principle of fairness requires that all professional decisions, including performance reviews, be based on objective criteria and be free from personal bias. Documentation and reliance on objective performance metrics are essential components of a fair review process. Question 24. A project manager requires a resource that is 50% allocated to another project and attempts to secure the remaining 50% through negotiation. The project manager should prioritize which negotiation outcome? A. Securing the resource for 100% of the duration to avoid future conflict. B. Documenting a clear understanding of the resource's availability and commitment level. C. Using the smoothing technique to avoid a confrontation with the functional manager. D. Transferring the resource's administrative reporting line to the project manager. Answer B. Documenting a clear understanding of the resource's availability and commitment level. Successful negotiation in resource acquisition centers on clarifying the terms of commitment. The priority is to formally document the agreed-upon availability and the specific hours or percentage committed to the project, ensuring clear expectations for both the project team and the functional manager. Question 25. What is the fundamental difference between explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge? A. Explicit knowledge is easily written down and shared. Tacit knowledge is based on experience and intuition. B. Explicit knowledge is always technical. Tacit knowledge is always behavioral. C. Explicit knowledge is stored in OPAs. Tacit knowledge is stored in EFs. D. Explicit knowledge is used in adaptive projects. Tacit knowledge is used in predictive projects. Answer A. Explicit knowledge is easily written down and shared. Tacit knowledge is based on experience and intuition. Explicit knowledge is formalized and easily codified, e.g., manuals, specifications. Tacit knowledge is subjective, difficult to articulate, and resides within the individual's experience and intuition, requiring high-bandwidth methods like mentoring to transfer. Question 26. Which organizational structure gives the project manager the most control over resource selection and assignment? A. Weak matrix. B. Balanced matrix. C. Strong matrix. D. Projectized. Answer D. Projectized. In a projectized structure, the project manager has full authority, and team members report directly and exclusively to them. This provides the project manager with maximum control over resource selection, assignment, and performance evaluation. Question 27. The project manager is using a reward system based on Maslow's theory. Which reward focuses on meeting the team member's social needs? A. Increased health benefits. B. Formal recognition of individual achievement. C. Offering membership to a technical community of practice. D. A permanent job contract. Answer: C. Offering membership to a technical community of practice. Social needs relate to belonging, friendship, and acceptance within a group. Offering membership to a community of practice fosters these social connections and satisfies the need for belonging among professional peers. Question 28. Which tool is essential for visualizing the time periods when team members are available to work on the project, particularly when shared resources are used? A. WBS Dictionary. B. Project Charter. C. Resource Calendar. D. Resource Breakdown Structure, RBS. Answer: C. Resource Calendar. The resource calendar is the schedule-related tool that defines the availability of specific project resources, including vacations, holidays, and commitments to other projects. This information is vital for scheduling activities and managing shared resource conflicts. Question 29. A project manager must make a resource assignment decision based on the skills defined in the RAM, but the three available candidates have comparable experience. What ethical guideline should guide the final selection? A. Select the resource who is cheapest to maintain. B. Select the resource who expresses the most enthusiasm for the project. C. Select the resource who is available immediately. D. Use objective, non-biased criteria to evaluate their past performance metrics. Answer: D. Use objective, non-biased criteria to evaluate their past performance metrics. The principle of fairness requires that when selecting among comparable candidates, the choice must be objective and free from bias. Using quantifiable, non-biased performance metrics from past work provides the fairest basis for the final selection. Question 30. What is the primary purpose of conducting a competency assessment in the context of team building? A. To determine if the project is adhering to the cost baseline. B. To identify existing skills, potential gaps, and necessary development activities. C. To finalize the project organization chart. D. To measure the team's velocity and story points. Answer: B. To identify existing skills, potential gaps, and necessary development activities. Competency assessment evaluates the team's current skills against project needs, revealing skill gaps, deficiencies, that must be closed through training, coaching, or new resource acquisition. This assessment drives the entire team development strategy. Question 31. The project manager realizes a key resource acquired for the testing phase is not performing the required work effectively due to a lack of specific, recent technical training. What is the most appropriate supportive action? A. Terminate the resource immediately due to poor performance. B. Document the performance failure in the lessons learned register. C. Engage the functional manager to fund and schedule the necessary training immediately. D. Reassign the resource to a lower priority project. Answer: C. Engage the functional manager to fund and schedule the necessary training immediately. The project manager's responsibility is to support the team's competence. Since the resource is struggling due to lack of training, the appropriate supportive action is to collaborate with the functional manager to provide the necessary training to fill the skills gap. Question 32. If a project manager observes that a team member is constantly performing tasks that were not assigned to them, causing confusion and rework, what supportive action should be prioritized? A. Providing a bonus for taking initiative. B. Addressing the behavior privately to understand the root cause, e.g., job satisfaction, boredom. C. Delegating the team member's role to an external contractor. D. Using legitimate power to enforce the WBS decomposition. Answer: B. Addressing the behavior privately to understand the root cause, e.g., job satisfaction, boredom. The manager must first understand the motivation behind the disruptive behavior. A private, coaching conversation is the most effective supportive action to discover if the issue is low morale, boredom, or a perception that others are incapable, allowing the manager to address the underlying cause. Question 33. The project manager decides to use a fixed-price contract for a portion of the development work. This procurement decision impacts which step in the resource acquisition process? A. It removes the need for a formal WBS. B. It simplifies internal resource negotiation. C. It requires acquiring fewer internal resources. D. It eliminates the need for competency assessment. Answer: C. It requires acquiring fewer internal resources. By contracting out work on a fixed-price basis, the organization transfers the responsibility for performing that scope to an external vendor. This decision directly reduces the internal demand for resources and skills, simplifying the internal resource acquisition process. Question 34. What is the primary benefit of documenting the team's organizational reporting structure in the project management plan? A. To clarify accountability and lines of communication. B. To define the project's overall budget and cost baseline. C. To accelerate the project's schedule compression efforts. D. To eliminate all future conflicts between team members. Answer: A. To clarify accountability and lines of communication. The project organization chart visually defines the administrative and reporting lines within the project. This structure is vital for clarifying who reports to whom, communication, and ensuring that clear accountability is assigned for all project work. Question 35. The project manager needs to ensure that the process for team building aligns with the available project budget and schedule. This planning occurs during the creation of the A. Project charter. B. Risk management plan. C. Resource management plan. D. Stakeholder engagement plan. Answer: C. Resource management plan. The resource management plan encompasses all aspects of managing the project team, including team building activities. This plan specifically dictates the budget and schedule constraints for team development efforts, ensuring they are integrated into the overall project plan.